Millionaire son asks his mom to leave as in-laws arrive. Her surprising reaction stunned everyone. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves, stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning. While outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong. A hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Lucas stepped inside, his heart pounding. This was supposed to be a joyful reunion, the annual gathering of his wealthy family. Instead, his mom, Vivian, loomed like a dark cloud, ready to unleash a storm. He'd hoped for light chatter and laughter, but the tension thick enough to slice with a knife told him this would be anything but normal. Together with his wife, Elena, he had tried to ease months of strained relationships. But the truth was like a virus, and Vivian's resentment was the infection. She had never accepted his marriage to Elena, the daughter of a middle-class family. As Lucas entered the grand living room, the scene felt otherworldly. Diamond-studded chandeliers cast dim glows, but his mother's fury was brighter than any light. Vivian's glare pierced through the haze of pleasantries, emotion dancing across her features like wildfire. "Your in-laws? Here? In my house?" She spat the words like venom. The tension twisted in Lucas's stomach as he realized that she still harbored deep resentment towards them. "Mom, you must leave before they get here," Lucas insisted, his hands trembling. His heart raced, a lump forming in his throat. He could feel the ground shifting beneath him as he stood between two women he loved dearly. Vivian's reaction stunned him. Her eyes widened, shock radiating from her like heat from an open flame. "You think you're in control, don't you? You've never understood the world we come from. You think they're people? They're vultures. They're here for our money." Her voice quivered, but the intensity didn't waver. His mind flashed back to family dinners, the hidden looks, the whispered phone calls that drip-fed his anxiety. He had never known the full story about his mother's life, only that she had once been a shining star in high society, a beauty with charm that drew men like moths to a flame. What had changed? "Mom, please, this is my life now," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his. The doorbell rang. Slicing through the thick air, Lucas's heart raced. Would this be the moment where family unity collapsed for good? "Will you still stand by me when I reveal your father's secrets? The truth that'll change everything about our family's legacy." Her tone shifted from fury to something that felt like a warning, a haunting lament from the past. Time seemed to halt. Would revealing the truth hold more weight than the fragile peace he fought to protect? As he looked at Vivian, something dark stirred within him, a feeling that perhaps some secrets were meant to stay buried. But that doorbell, it wasn't just an invitation. It was a countdown to chaos. Lucas glanced at the door, knowing the next seconds would determine everything. Would the arrival of his in-laws shatter the struggling peace he had built? Or would the truth pull him into a confrontation that could tear the family apart? Lucas stood frozen, heart pounding, eyes glued to the door. The doorbell rang again, sudden and shrill, like an alarm signaling disaster. This moment felt monumental, the air thick with dread. He could almost taste the tension, a bitter tang on his tongue. Elena held her breath beside him. He could feel her fingers interlacing with his, her grip tightening. But his mind raced ahead. What if they come in, he thought. What if this whole family gathering explodes into chaos before we can breathe? Vivian's eyes were narrow, mirroring the storm brewing. Within the walls of the farmhouse, "You have no idea what you're doing," she hissed, her voice low and tense. "You think they're just here to visit? But they're not. They want to destroy us." She was on the edge, and Lucas could see it. This was not just about his in-laws. This was about something deeper, something buried under layers of resentment and family secrets. "Mom, please," he started, but the word caught in his throat. It felt like a weight was settling on his chest. Another ring, this time more urgent. Lucas glanced at the door, his instincts screaming at him to open it. Yet something held him back, a raw sense of foreboding. And then, with a swung open, the sharp creak sliced through the silence as his in-laws stepped inside, their smiles frozen in expectancy. They looked every bit the perfect family. But the moment they crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. "Surprise! We brought dessert!" his mother-in-law chirped, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the hearts of others. But that wasn't the end of it. From behind them, a figure stepped in. Tall, imposing. Lucas's heart sank. It was his estranged father, Samuel, a man he hadn't seen in years. The sight of him felt like a punch to the gut. "Dad?" He choked on the word, the air heavy with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" Vivian's face dropped, her fury transforming into a ghostly pallor. "No, this can't be happening," she muttered, her voice almost a whisper, trembling like the leaves in a storm. Even his in-laws recoiled, confusion spreading across their faces. This was not how the evening was meant to unfold. Samuel's presence darkened the room, an ominous cloud threatening to spill rain. "I came to talk about the past, Lucas, and your future," he declared, his voice a deep rumble. Then he turned, locking eyes with Vivian. "You've kept so many secrets, haven't you? Secrets that could ruin everything." The weight of those words hung in the air, suffocating and sharp. Lucas felt the ground beneath him shift, a chasm opening wide. Vivian paled, the color draining from her face. The fierce woman he'd always known now seemed vulnerable, scared. "Lucas!" I can explain," she stammered, panic creeping into her voice. "Explain what?" Lucas's voice trembled with urgency. "What does he mean, Mom? Why are you scared?" Before she could respond, Samuel stepped forward. "You think you know the truth, Lucas? You think this family is built on love and loyalty? You have no idea." Shockwaves rippled through the room. Lucas's mind spiraled. Confusion, anger, betrayal, they all mixed in an explosive cocktail threatening to erupt. "Maybe it's time to show you the legacy we're trapped in," Samuel said, voice low and grave. "Maybe it's time for you to understand everything I kept buried for your sake." As he spoke, a sudden crash echoed from above. It was as if the house itself was reacting, vibrating with tension. Lucas's heart sank deeper. What could possibly be up there? What secrets were still hiding in the dark corners of the farmhouse? The questions hung heavy in the air, as the walls seemed to hold their breath. Lucas felt dizzy, suspended in this turmoil. This moment would shatter everything, and he feared that nothing would remain the same again. The sudden crash echoed again, rattling the very bones of the farmhouse. Lucas felt the vibrations through his feet, a chilling warning. His heart raced as if it were trying to escape his chest. "What was that?" he gasped, eyes darting between Vivian and Samuel, two opposing storms ready to collide. The tension in the room was suffocating. He could hardly breathe. Samuel continued, each word dragging him deeper into chaos. "Lucas, I told you, it's time to uncover the truth. It's buried in the attic, in the old trunk." "What truth?" Lucas shouted, desperation melting into anger. Every nerve in his body felt alive, electrified by fear and confusion. "Why are you really here?" Vivian's face paled further, a ghost against the rich mahogany of the living room walls. "No, you can't! You mustn't!" Her voice trembled. The fierce woman, trembling like leaves in a storm. Before Lucas could ask what on earth she was so terrified of, another crash. This time more violent. The ceiling creaked ominously, dust swirling through the air like a fog of uncertainty. "Stay here." Lucas turned toward the stairway, the sound drawing him like a moth to a flame. "And die in ignorance?" Samuel's voice was dark, almost mocking. "Some secrets are better left undisturbed." Lucas ignored him, his pulse hammering in his ears. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, breathless. Every creak sent a shiver down his spine. As he reached the landing, the air thickened, heavy with anticipation. The attic door loomed at the end of the narrow hallway, a foreboding threshold to the unknown. He swung the door open with a heart full of dread. The musty smell hit him first, a swirling mix of age and neglect. Dust motes danced in the beams of faded light. In the corner sat the old trunk, its wood warped and crying for attention. He could feel it. Whatever lay inside was a key, a turning point. As he stepped closer, trembling fingers reached for the latch. Was he ready to lift the lid on generations of deception? The room around him faded away. The panic, the anger, his family, everything was a distant roar against the currents of his own thoughts. With a deep breath, he lifted the latch. The trunk forcefully flew open, like a wild animal set free. Lucas stumbled back, eyes widening. Inside was a collection of photographs, letters, documents, each piece a dagger to the heart. He flipped through them, each revealing secrets of betrayal, infidelity, and a hidden life. Among the faces, one stood out. His very own mother, Vivian, but younger, happier, and with a stranger at her side. A man with dark eyes, a smirk, and a stance that radiated power. And then came the staggering revelation. A birth certificate slipped from the pile, fluttering to the floor. It wasn't Lucas's. It was the birth certificate of a sister he never knew existed. The name, Elisa. His breath caught. "Elisa?" It echoed in the stillness, a haunting whisper. He staggered back into the hallway, eyes wide in shock. "Mom, what have you done? Who is she?" Vivian's face twisted, a kaleidoscope of emotions: fear, shame, denial. But it was Samuel's next words that shattered the fragile air. "You need to look closer, Lucas. We're not the family you think." That was when the ground truly gave way beneath him. "What do you mean?" His voice trembled, each word laced with urgency. As the silence stretched, the tension was electric. Lucas felt the weight of the haunting truth press upon him, like a storm ready to break. Everything he thought he knew was crumbling, slipping through his fingers. Who was he really? Who was Elisa? And what did this mean for his relationship with Vivian? He felt lost in a labyrinth of lies. Desperate to uncover the answers, not just for himself, but for the family he thought he understood. The echoes of those unanswered questions hung heavy in the air, leaving them all standing at the edge of a terrifying precipice. What were they? Truly hiding? Lucas's heart was racing now, the trunk's contents swirling like a storm in his mind. Elisa? The name hung like a heavy fog, obscuring everything else. He stumbled from the attic, confusion gripping him tight. "What does this even mean?" he muttered, coming face to face with Samuel's grave expression. Vivian's fear was palpable. She stood motionless, the walls closing in around her. "It's not what you think," she cried, her voice cracking. Lucas was filled with a sinking dread. "Then what is it, Mom? What have you been hiding?" But before she could respond, the sudden crash came again, louder this time. The noise reverberated through the house, shaking pictures off the walls, sending shadows flickering. Lucas exchanged a look with Samuel. A silent acknowledgement that they were no longer safe. Then came a chilling voice from downstairs. "Lucas, are you up there?" It was Elena. Panic shot through him. "Stay back!" he shouted, aware of the storm brewing. Vivian grasped his arm, her fingers trembling. "Don't let her in! She can't know!" The fear in her eyes mirrored what he felt. An overwhelming urge to protect, combined with confusion over what exactly needed protecting. "Why?" Lucas's voice was strained. "What does she have to do with this?" Before she could answer, the attic door swung open wider, and there stood Elena, confusion etched across her face. "What's going on? I heard noise and—" "Lucas?" But as her gaze fell to the trunk, her expression shifted. From confusion to shock. "What is that?" she asked, pointing. Lucas felt the heat rise in his cheeks. This was not how he'd wanted her to find out. Suddenly, a guttural noise echoed from the stairs, a thud that made Lucas jump. "What was that?" he asked, panic tightening his chest. Samuel's eyes darted towards the noise, a look of fear crossing his face too. "We need to get out of here!" Before either of them could react further, the ceiling above them creaked ominously. The air was thick and heavy, enemy to the terrified breaths they were all taking. And that's when it happened. A loud crack echoed, followed by a crash. The attic ceiling collapsed, sending wooden beams crashing down like a terrible storm above. Lucas flung an arm over his head, instinctively shielding himself. In a heartbeat, the world spun on its axis. As dust and debris filled the air, Lucas felt the icy fingers of fear grip him. Was anyone hurt? He could barely think. The crash had momentarily dissipated the tension, replaced by chaos. He turned to find Elena, only to see Vivian standing frozen, her face pale. And then a figure emerged from the dust. A woman. Lucas squinted, trying to focus through the haze. "Elisa!" he gasped, heart pounding. But it wasn't merely her name that spilled from his lips. It was recognition, disbelief melding into something far worse. Elisa stood in front of him, unharmed, yet with a haunting look. In her eyes, "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What?" Lucas felt his heart freeze. "How do you know my name?" "It's too late for that. The truth is..." Before she could finish, Vivian lunged, blocking her with a fierce desperation. "No, you can't reveal anything. Not now, not ever." But Lucas was already piecing the terrifying puzzle together. "You knew her. You've known her all along." He stared into Vivian's wide eyes, betrayal like poison running through his veins. "She's dangerous, Lucas. She's..." But Lucas interrupted, the words choking him, tears pooling in his eyes. "No, she's my sister! You kept her from me!" Elena gasped in backing away, as if witnessing something unimaginable. The horror settled over them all. Like an unshakable weight, Lucas's whole life flashed in front of him. Moments stolen, connections severed. And just when it seemed chaos couldn't get worse, another loud crash rang out from the house, this time from below. Something breaking. What now? Lucas felt his knees weaken. Nothing made sense anymore. His family was falling apart, and the truth, and the weight of their family's history pressed down like a heavy stone. He held on to the edge of anger and confusion, not even knowing where to go from here. The shadows in the farmhouse whispered promises of pain yet to come. And Lucas was left standing at the precipice of chaos, feeling the echoes of all those hidden truths calling to him. What now? What more awaited them? Lucas's world felt like it was spiraling out of control. Everything he thought he knew was slipping through his fingers, lost in the dust swirling around him. Elisa, standing there with haunted eyes, was somehow part of this grotesque family portrait. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered again, shaking her head like a warning. "Why? Why shouldn't I?" he retorted, voice rising in a blend of confusion and anger. "You're my sister. How can she keep you from me?" Vivian's panic morphed into something deeper. "You don't understand," she cried, desperation seeping into her words. "Elisa she's not who you think." But Lucas was already stepping forward, focused solely on the truth that felt like a scorching fire in his gut. "What does that even mean? If she's my sister..." His words got cut off as another crash echoed, more forceful this time, rattling the house to its core. Dust rained from above, and they all flinched. Lucas's heart raced. What now? Before anyone could respond, the air shifted. From the fissures in the ceiling, a dust-covered object plummeted down, landing with a heavy thud right at Lucas's feet. It was a small, weathered box, old and graved, covered in layers of dust and the weight of secrets. He could feel the heaviness in the air as all eyes fixed on the box. "What is that?" Elena asked, inching closer yet wary. "I don't know," Lucas whispered, kneeling to pick it up. The moment he touched it, a jolt ran through him, a shiver that snaked up his spine. Igniting something deep inside, a cold sweat formed on his brow. With hesitant hands, he opened the box, and the sight inside sent shockwaves through him. It was filled with faded photographs, letters, and a journal. Something glimmered at the bottom, an ornate key, twisting like a serpent under the dim light. "Every secret has a key," Samuel murmured, a mix of anger and disbelief washing over his face. Lucas couldn't think. "What secrets?" he shouted, gripping the box tighter. "Just tell me!" From the shadows, Elisa stepped forward, her eyes boring to Lucas's, filled with sorrow. "Lucas, there's something you need to know. Something about why you've never met me." His heart began to race again, urgency clawing at him. "Then tell me, now!" But before Elisa could speak, the ground shook violently. A sudden rumble echoed from beneath, like a growl awakening from deep within the house's bones. The walls shuddered. Lucas felt his stomach lurch. Then, in a whirlwind of horror, a large, jagged segment of the ceiling collapsed, crashing down right near Elisa. Time slowed. He saw it all, her eyes wide, the panic in her gaze. "No!" he screamed, lunging forward. But the dust and debris fell like rain, a storm turning everything dark. Lucas barely caught sight of a hand reaching out for Elisa. It was Vivian, and her cry echoed in his ears. "Elisa!" In that blink, the heavier pieces struck the floor, and with a booming crash, the room fell silent. When the dust settled, a strangled silence wrapped around them. Lucas knelt, fear consuming him. He reached for the wreckage. "Elisa!" But it was Vivian's voice that broke through the haze. She was never just your sister, Lucas. She's more than that." Confusion washed over him. "What do you mean?" His voice was barely a whisper, a thread of hope dipping into despair. And then, breaking through the suffocating silence, he noticed something that would imprint itself in his memory forever. The journal lay open, pages fluttering like trapped birds. He strained to read. There, scrawled across the yellowing paper, were words that shattered everything he thought he understood. "Lucas, our family is built on a lie." He froze, staring at those words. The truth he was seeking twisted deeper and deeper, winding itself into darkness. In shock, Lucas looked around. Everyone was on the edge, lost in the fog of new revelations. But that wasn't the only thing. The shadows seemed to gather, tensing like a coiled spring, whispering secrets yet to be unveiled. And deep in his heart, he felt the ground shift again beneath them all. Like the world was asking him not just to face the truth, but to be part of a fate that was sealed long before he was born. What awaited him now? What other revelations lurked in the shadows? The journal lay open, its pages fluttering like 1,000 anxious hearts. Lucas stared at the words. The terrible implications weighing on him like chains. Was his entire life hinged on this one revelation? The shadows in the corners seemed to whisper secrets, taunting him with the horrors they held. "Lucas, listen." Elisa spoke, desperation spilling from her voice like a dam breaking. But her words were swallowed by the crashing noise from below, the house shuddering like a living thing in pain. The atmosphere felt electric, as if every particle thrummed with unseen tension. Then it happened. The ground shook violently, more intense than before. Lucas staggered, his heart racing, a tightness choking him. "What's happening?" He set frantic glances around the room. Fear clutched at his throat. From the depths of the house, a deafening roar erupted, louder than anything he had ever heard. The very walls seemed to scream in response. Before he could digest the chaos, a bright flash of light burst from the basement, a searing, blinding explosion that illuminated the darkness for a split second. "Get down!" Samuel shouted, pushing Vivian protectively behind him. Dust and debris filled the air like a thick fog. Everything was chaos. Lucas instinctively reached for Elena, his heart racing as they stumbled backward, hands grasping at each other for support. Then there was silence. An eerie stillness enveloped the room. Lucas held his breath, wide-eyed, heart hammering in his chest. Was it over? He scanned the room, searching for a glimpse of someone amidst the settling dust. And there, through the haze, he saw them. Shadows emerging from the now open door of the basement. Figures stepped into view, glistening in the fading light. They were familiar, yet terrifying. Friends, family friends, all of them wearing expressions of dread, confusion, and even guilt. But what struck him wasn't just their presence. It was the sight behind them, the broken remnants of a once hidden door, now shattered and agape, revealing a hidden chamber below. "What?" Lucas whispered, his voice a mere breath against the chaos. Elisa, trembling next to him, took a hesitant step forward. "That door. It shouldn't have opened. It was sealed for a reason." Samuel's expression twisted in horror. "No, that can't be. We buried that years ago." His voice cracked, fear spilling over the edges. "What's down there? What did you hide?" Lucas demanded, his voice rising, filled with urgency. The truth was creeping closer, undeniable now. The unknown loomed like a monster, hungry for revelation. Before anyone could respond, Elena broke through the dazed silence. "Is this what you were protecting us from?" She gestured wildly towards the chaos, towards the open door. "What else could be waiting down there? What have you all done?" As if on cue, a loud, heavy footstep echoed from the darkened depths beneath them, followed by another, heavier sound, rattling the floorboards around them. Everyone froze. The air was thick with fear, palpable as the chill spread through Lucas's bones. "Run!" Vivian yelled, breaking free from her frozen state, panic etching lines deep into her face. "We have to get out of here." Lucas hesitated, but felt the pull of urgency in his gut. Something terrible was awakening beneath them. With fear snaking around his heart, he grabbed Elena and pushed toward the front door. "Go! We have to go now!" But as they neared the threshold, something shifted in the shadows. A figure stepped into the dim light of the living room. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. It was a man, tall and commanding, with a familiar smirk. His dark eyes glinted like obsidian in the half-light. "Well, well, well," the stranger drawled, a twisted grin stretching across his face. "Finally, I'm back home." It was him. Lucas's father, previously thought dead, long buried in the family's painful past, the one person he never expected to see again. Everything he felt, confusion, anger, dread, swirled into a tempest of emotions, unleashing the darkest fears he had buried. "Dad?" Lucas's voice trembled, but there was no denying the intensity of shock flooding through him. "How are you here?" The man stepped closer, a wild energy radiating from him. "There are truths in this family that need to be shown. You think you know pain? The game is just beginning, my son. And with those words, Lucas's world shattered all over again. The air felt thick with the weight of a profound revelation, dancing on the edge of catastrophe. What was once shattered was now splintering further, leaving a jagged, treacherous path ahead. "Run!" Vivian's voice screamed, but Lucas couldn't move. The truth loomed over him, an avalanche of feelings consuming him as time slowed. What do we do now? He thought, trapped in a moment that held the power to unravel everything he believed. And the only thing echoing in his mind was the chilling question that hung heavy in the air. What more terrors lay beneath? Lucas felt the weight of disbelief crash over him like a wave. His father, alive, standing before him, the man he thought was lost forever. Fear snaked through the room, filling every crevice as his heart raced. The chilling grin on Samuel's face sent shivers down his spine. "Hello, son." The words dripped with a mix of sarcasm and menace, slicing through the confusion. "Surprised to see me? Why? How?" Lucas stumbled over his own words, struggling to comprehend the sight before him. The air felt charged, the atmosphere thick with a revelation that hung like a storm cloud, dark and foreboding. "Enough with the theatrics!" Vivian's voice pierced the moment, raw and trembling. "You shouldn't be here." "Oh, but I think I should." Samuel stepped closer, confidence radiating off him. "I have a legacy to share." "Legacy?" Lucas echoed, tension coiling tight in his chest. His brain raced. What more could this man want to ruin? But just as Samuel opened his mouth to speak, the ground rumbled beneath them, a violent pulse that rattled the very bones of the farmhouse. The windows shuddered, and dust cascaded from the ceiling, like powdered sugar drifting from a broken confection. Gasps erupted around him. "Run!" Vivian shouted, her voice trembling with fear. "Not yet." Samuel's expression hardened, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "There are things even deeper than what you've uncovered." Lucas took a shaky step back, glancing between his parents, confusion boiling. "What do you mean?" And then, from behind Samuel, the shadows seemed to swell and shift. A figure emerged, half obscured in the gloom. Lucas squinted, the figure stepping into the dim light, and his breath caught in his throat. A woman, slender, with cascading her chin, defiance mingling with pain. "I am Elisa's mother." Time froze. The floor felt unsteady beneath him. "What?" "Your father. He has kept things from you." Her voice shook slightly as she glanced at Samuel. "There's a truth you all need to confront." "Mom, what is she talking about?" Lucas rasped, his heart pounding, the weight of the past pressing down on him. "You're in the middle of a game you don't understand." Samuel growled, bearing down on Elisa, a predatory glint in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come back." "What do you mean?" Lucas felt the ground shifting, the air thickening with tension. "Legacy?" Elisa continued, fist clenched. "No, Lucas. It's a curse, a family bound by blood and lies." Suddenly, the walls trembled. A loud crack echoed, and a section of the floor gaped open beneath Samuel's feet. Panic erupted. "Step back!" Vivian shrieked. But it was too late. Samuel lost his footing, falling into the gaping hole. A flash of darkness enveloped him, his shouts echoing down into the dark abyss. All eyes widened in horror as silence slashed through the chaos. Lucas felt a sickening twist in his gut. For a heartbeat, everything hung in limbo. Then, the air thrummed with electric tension. "Mom!" Lucas yelled, reaching for Vivian, panic igniting in his chest. Their bond fractured amidst secrets and shadows. There was no turning back. "And now he's gone," Elisa breathed, her eyes wide, anguish rippling through her voice. But the truth, it will come out. What truth? The darkness loomed, thickening around them as shadows writhed. "It's all connected," she whispered, tightening her hands. "You, me, we need to uncover it all before it's too late." As the dust settled, Lucas felt the pulse of impending doom thrum in the air. What secrets lay below? What horrors awaited them? Each heartbeat quickened the uncertainty, leaving them all teetering on the edge of revelation and ruin. Elisa looked around, confusion etched on her face. The weight of the past threatened to crush them all. "The truth is," she began, her voice trembling, "the family isn't just bound by blood." But before she could finish, the floor heaved again. The sound was deafening, a rumble like an angry animal awakening from sleep. Lucas's heart raced, his body tense. Every instinct screamed danger. The shadows shifted, and a figure appeared, a dark silhouette emerging from the dust. Lucas squinted, trying to make sense of it. Another ghost from their past? Or something far worse? The figure stepped closer, and Lucas gasped. It was a woman, her hair wild, eyes gleaming with a ferocious intensity, someone he recognized. "Mom?" he whispered, shock rippling through him. "Cassandra!" Vivian screamed, her voice a mix of horror and disbelief. All eyes turned sharply to the newcomer. Cassandra smirked, a chilling blend of affection and cruelty. "Surprised to see me, aren't you?" She spun slowly, taking in the room, a twisted smile plastered across her face. "Here I thought you all wanted the truth." Lucas felt his world lurch. "You're alive?" he choked out, confusion overwhelming him. "Not just alive, I've been watching," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Your father thought he could bury the past, but the truth has a way of clawing its way back to the surface." "What do you mean?" He felt a tightness in his throat, an ache deep inside his chest, intensified as fear coiled tighter. "Elisa's not the only one with secrets." Cassandra stepped forward, eyes dark and hungry, a predator emboldened by her hunt. "You all thought Vivian and I were just sisters. You thought we were best friends, didn't you? But we were never just that." Shock waves rippled through the room. Lucas exchanged horrified glances with Vivian. "What are you saying?" "The family's curse is rooted deeper than you think." Cassandra raised a hand, the air crackling with an unseen tension. "You're all part of a legacy, one steeped in betrayal and revenge." "I'm not a part of this," Lucas shouted, fists clenched, anger mixing with despair. "You're just a liar." "A liar?" Cassandra's laugh echoed through the room, hollow and cruel. "No, dear, I'm your mother." The world spun, every breath lodged in his throat. "What?" The word burst forth. A tidal wave of realization crashed over him, pulling him under. "That can't be true! Vivian is my mother!" Cassandra stepped closer, eyes locked on. "Lucas's. Vivian is your mother, but I gave birth to you first. The truth is not simple, Lucas. You were meant to be forgotten." "Stop! That's enough!" Vivian's voice shattered like glass, but the force behind it felt weak, trembling. The depths of the betrayal sunk deep into Lucas's mind. his very existence woven with lies. "Why now?" he rasped. "Why reveal this?" "For the very reasons you're here tonight, to expose the rot, to bring it all crashing down," Cassandra finished, her voice a deadly whisper. "And I'm just getting started." A loud crash echoed, pulling everyone's attention away, but it was too late to stop it now. The house moaned, the walls shaking as if responding to Cassandra's presence. Dust fell around them like confetti of doom. And then it hit, a surge of energy, blinding and overwhelming. Time slowed, everything shifting around him. "Run!" he gasped, grabbing for Elena. But another rumble pulsed through the ground, shaking loose roots of hidden horrors. Dark shadows surged from the depths, reaching out, twisting their forms. Cassandra looked at them, and fear bloomed across her face. "It's too late," she whispered, and then everything went black. "Wait!" Lucas screamed, but it was too late. The shadows swallowed them, dragging them into the darkness. And just like that, everything, every bond, every secret, every truth they thought they held, vanished into the void, leaving Lucas gasping in a world turned upside down, desperate for answers. What lay in the darkness? What truth awaited them? The darkness enveloped them, thick and suffocating. Lucas felt like he was swimming in a cold sea, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. He tried to reach out, but panic clawed at him. Where was everyone? Where was the truth? Suddenly, as if the shadows themselves had teeth, a blinding light surged from the depths. It exploded outward, pushing back the dark. The light wasn't just illuminating. It was alive and angry. Lucas shielded his eyes, heart racing, a tight knot of fear in his throat. "Elisa!" he shouted, but his voice got lost. The light was too bright, too overwhelming. And then it happened. A figure emerged from the light, and Lucas squinted, instinct making him step backward. The person was familiar, yet wrong, like a reflection that had changed in the water. A face framed by golden hair, a smile that felt both inviting and terrifying. "Megan?" Lucas gasped, disbelief flooding through him. Megan, his childhood friend, a soul he hadn't seen in years. She had vanished, lost just as they had all been swept into this storm of secrets and lies. "Lucas!" she cried, her voice ringing clear like a bell. But her eyes held a deeper truth, a sadness that cut deeper than anything. "You have to listen! They're coming!" "Who?" Panic surged through him. He turned to find Vivian and Elisa, frozen, eyes wide, as the looming figure of Cassandra faltered, caught between rage and fear. "Megan is—" Cassandra began, but the words turned to ash in her mouth. Before anyone could say another word, the space twisted and shuddered. The shadows roared back to life, swirling like a tempest. Lucas felt the walls of the room shrink, the air tightening around him. Breaths came short, and the knot in his chest tightened until it threatened to break. And then it happened in an instant. One moment, Megan stood there, hands raised as if to protect them. And the next, she was gone. The light extinguished in a blink, leaving nothing but the cloying darkness behind. "No!" Lucas screamed, the word tearing from his throat. "Megan! You shouldn't have been here!" Cassandra shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. "You don't know what you've lost." "I lost her," Lucas shouted back, fury igniting within him. "And you're part of this. You've done this to us." Megan had always been the link between their childhood laughter and the storm brewing now. Was she part of the curse? Was she? The ground shook again, as if the house was alive. The noise crescendoed, wood creaking, plaster cracking, the sound consuming everything. Elation turned into dread as shadows morphed into twisted shapes, forming grotesque figures, crawling, reaching. Lucas could feel his heart hammering wildly in his chest. "What is this?" he yelled. But it was hard to think, to breathe, as fear forced adrenaline through his veins. "Stop!" Vivian cried out, breaking through. "The shadows. We have to find her. We have to." "Find what?" Eliza interjected, her eyes wide with realization. "Find who exactly? You?" Her voice trailed off, and the room went silent. The walls quaked. The gaping hole of the basement loomed ominously, and in that silence, realization struck hard like lightning. "Lucas, the truth, it hung in the air, suffocating." Something cracked within him. Who was he? Who were they? And as the shadows lunged forward, a scream pierced the darkness. It came from nowhere, but it felt like it came from everywhere. A howl steeped in pain. The shadows twisted like banshees, clawing their way toward the echoes of sorrow. Lucas's heart raced. He stumbled back, breathless, pulse pounding. In his ears, desperate to escape, but everything he cared for was tearing apart around him. His family, their history, he could see it collapsing. Were they destined to drown in the truth? And then, another explosion of light. This one was brighter, warmer. It surged through the shadows, igniting the space like sunrise after a storm. Lucas blinked against the brilliance, every bit of fear weighing him down, every doubt clawing at him. As the brightness settled, something shifted. In its core, softly glowing, a small figure emerged, ethereal and shimmering. A child, not just any child, but the spirit of Megan, her energy radiant, eyes bright with the essence of youth. "Lucas," she spoke, a light melody that hung in the air. "Don't lose hope. You have to remember." "Remember what?" Panic edged his voice, the knot in his throat returning, tighter than ever. But before she could reply, the shadows surged again, wrapping around her. "Get back!" he screamed, lunging forward, heart racing with protectiveness. "Lucas, you have to understand." Megan's voice broke through the chaos. "Everything depends on you." And just like that, with a flash, she vanished. The shadows closed in, consuming the light, dragging all of them to the precipice of the unknown. Lucas could only breathe, heart pounding. What did it all mean? What was he supposed to remember? As the shadows tightened their grip, he felt the weight of destiny, calling him deeper into the dark. Was this the end of everything they had known? Or just the beginning of a truth buried deeper than they could imagine? As the shadows surged forward, their fingers stretching and curling like tendrils of smoke, Lucas felt the weight of the moment heavy in his chest. "No!" he screamed, instinctively pushing Vivian and Elisa behind him. "Get back!" But Cassandra's sinister grip tightened around them. "It's time to see the truth!" she roared, her voice echoing like a siren's song. Megan's radiant spirit flickered, her glow becoming a refuge against the encroaching darkness. "Lucas, remember!" Her voice resonated, clarity cutting through the chaos. "The strength isn't just in blood. It's in fighting for what's right." As if ignited by her words, a burning flame ignited within. "Lucas." He felt adrenaline surge. "We're not just victims of secrets," he shouted. the sound rising above the chaos. We're family. We choose what defines us. In that moment, the world shifted again, shadows halting in their advance. The trembling in the air was palpable, a suspended heartbeat of fear and power colliding. We're stronger together, Lucas declared, locking eyes with his mother and sister, their shock giving way to determination. Cassandra's face twisted, fury igniting her expression. You think uniting will matter? The truth is dark and festering. It will consume you. Let it come, Lucas challenged, his voice steady, seeping strength. We're ready to confront it. The shadows pulsated, swirling as if caught in a tempest. The very essence of suffering and betrayal surrounded them, but Lucas held on to hope. The storm became a cyclone of dread and light. Everything around them was alive, vibrating with energy. Elisa, your words, Lucas urged, his breath coming in short, determined gasps. What do we need to remember? With a fierce brightness in her eyes, Elisa stepped forward, her fingers trembling. Together, we can break the curse. Together, we can reveal the truth. The shadows recoiled, lashing out, but losing power against their unity. Lucas felt the surge of warmth spreading through him, igniting the power of shared history, the bonds that twisted back through time. Yes, Vivian shouted, arms raised. No more hiding, no more lies. The air crackled with an electric charge, walls trembling with the force of their combined will. In a final act of defiance, they joined hands, a circle of resolve. Reveal what you've hidden, Lucas cried, his voice rising to a crescendo, ricocheting off the walls. In response, the shadows whimpered, twisting and retreating, as if struggling against a tide they could no longer hold back. Lucas felt shivers race down his spine, the pain of the past clawing at his spirit. But the weight of love and truth surged through him, pushing back against despair. With one triumphant shout, Megan's spirit shimmered brightly, flooding the room with light. Remember, you're never alone. Suddenly, the darkness broke like glass shattering. The figures of their past swirled, and the room filled with radiant warmth. Cassandra screamed, the light engulfing her, and she vanished into the mist of memories, still binding the family to their painful secrets. As the light dimmed, the air calmed. Lucas's heart raced in the quiet. They stood together, hands clasped, hearts beating in synchronized hope. What just happened? He breathed, disbelief mixing with relief. We faced the darkness, Vivian whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Together. Lucas looked around, the shadows fading away, yet still feeling the remnants of their struggles. He could breathe. He felt lighter. But what now? He asked, uncertainty lingering in his voice. Elisa paused, a soft smile breaking through. Now, we move forward, together. We rebuild from here. Whatever the past held, we'll own our future. As they stepped out into the light of a new day, the world felt brighter, yet tinged with the bittersweet taste of truths revealed. Clarity washed over them in waves, fears slowly ebbing. They knew they still had battles ahead. Those wounds would require time to heal. But they also knew they had each other. Lucas took a deep breath, smiling as sunlight filtered through the trees, illuminating everything they could create together. Love remained, stronger than secrets. Let's make this a new beginning, he said, hope sparkling in his eyes. As they walked away from the darkness, something stirred inside Lucas, an unshakable truth blossoming. Wherever the road led, they would face it, not just as a family, but as a force, fighting for light and understanding. And with that, a promise echoed in the wind, whispering of new paths to forge ahead, filled with infinite possibilities that awaited beyond the horizon. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our upcoming exclusive stories filled with mystery and excitement. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this incredible journey. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear what you think. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through your actions.